So good afternoon once again, and moving on now to a very interesting discussion on the big data. As I say, data is the new oil. I mean, I think probably that is more true in the digital world than probably any other world that we know of. But what really makes data the oil and how it is needs to be maneuvered by D2C companies is the real challenge, and how you need to sort of spend on your data, how you need to control your data. All these things are extremely important, which we're going to discuss today over the next 30 minutes. So I'm going to start with Sudeep. Um, so, so Sudeep, at WOW, and I've been a fan of WOW since I think 2018 when I first met the founder and spoke to him, and he showed me the products, and it was very new because FMCG virtually was, we only knew the Unilevers and the PNGs at that point of time. So, going digital first, going and building a FMCG organization. So, what are the data matrix that you really look at? And I mean, how do you sort of, somebody spoke about the customer loyalty, and they look at repeat customer. How do you ensure that with the kind of data that you have to try to at least figure it out?
Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, Wow is an omni-channel brand. So we sell on marketplaces, we sell on brand.com, we sell on offline. So it's all data is all over the place, by the way. But uh, on a serious note, like on the brand.com, we get a lot of data. We get the data of who's the customer, what's the buying pattern, what's the repeat cycle, how's the replenishment cycle. Based on all that data, like we actually derive multiple facets. Like one is that we segment the data to say who's a profitable customer, who's a non-profitable customer, and what are those buckets and cohorts, and how do we then activate each bucket and cohort to kind of then derive business results, right? The other aspect is fraud. There are a lot of fraud and abusive users that come into play. So how do we kind of cull them and not uh, let them go through the system? An example is in India, you get a lot of users who just place an order on cash on delivery and never accept the order. It's a huge problem, the RTO, right? So how do you identify users? Like one crude way is saying, "Yaar, मैं pin code block कर देता हूँ. I'll not ship on an entire pin code." But that's a blunt measure, right? How do you identify users who are displaying this behavior and then only give a prepaid option to them, for example? So those are other things, right? Then a third use case on data could be around, say, your price elasticity with demand, right? Like pricing on D2C and the ecosystem, like how you price your products across Amazon or across the D2C site is dynamic. It keeps changing. How much discount? What will be the impact on sales? So all of that is another data angle that can come in, right? So these are multiple angles of data that we use at Wow to arrive at.
Sure. I think that's fantastic, and probably also the reason for the growth that we have seen at WOW. So I'm going to come to you, Kaushal. Now, Mish, how do you sort of, with data, how do you measure consumer behavior? What is it about the consumer behavior markers that you really sort of look at when you look at this data? I know a lot of D2C companies always come and tell me that, मैम डेटा तो बहुत आता है लेकिन उसको स्टडी कैसे करें, so that itself is a big challenge for a lot of young brands, particularly, that what markers is it that they need to look at? So particularly from a consumer behavior perspective, what do you look at?
No, so it's actually true that there is so much raw data these days that to analyze what is right and what is more useful is the bigger challenge.
Correct.
So in us, because we also sell through our own website, through marketplaces, we get different type of data from different places. From our own website, for example, so we are into many categories in dresses and tops, etc. We used to display all the products on our homepage. But through Google Analytics and other tools, we found out that most customers come and directly go to the dresses section, not so much into tops. So we started putting all our dresses first on our homepage, and we immediately saw that there is more traffic on our homepage for a longer time. So that shows customer behavior. Through that, we learned this and turned it into a more profitable way of engaging the customer more on the homepage. So that was a big learning. Through other channels also, like We sell a lot in tier 2, tier 3 cities. A lot of D2C brands do that these days. So in different zones, in different tiers, you'll see different behavior of customers. Some are more orthodox, more conservative. They will not buy short dresses, not wear sleeveless dresses, whereas in metros, it's vice versa. So when we do performance marketing, we only target those kind of dresses to those regions, and it really works. So these learnings are very, very helpful for us. Yeah.
Sure. Okay, coming on to Vinay. Um, so Vinay, at the health factory, particularly when you focus on health-based products, and I always, whenever I think of and I meet a healthy product founder, I always go back and think about Chef Sanjeev Kapoor. And he once told me that बात तो सब vegan की करते हैं और खाते समोसे हैं.
That's true.
So you know, so what is it about customers that you really study closely to understand? What is it that they? सबसे पहले तो who is the health customer? Am I the health customer? Or is somebody particularly कुछ specifically आप देखते हो उसके अंदर that okay saying that this is our customer, this is our TG. I mean, I'm sure most of us are healthy on various days, right? But so how do you then sort of pick up that customer जो आज समोसा नहीं खाएगा और health food खाएगा, so to say? So how do you identify
Sure.
that?
So just to guys give you a quick download, we sell bread. For us, what is data? Data for us is volume, variety, velocity, and thus curiosity. To understand how we're studying consumer behavior and who actually is a healthy consumer, for us that comes down to understanding categories, and not only the bread as a category, but how did we come to bread as a category was a quotient of maybe bars, maybe supplements, finding an intersection of price points there, quality, what the consumer actually wants to hear at scale, right? So for example, when we started with the protein bread, we were trying to understand this protein market is actually picking up, but then we understood that the bars and the whey protein shakes were also in the market. But then when we went down to study the users, and actually when you hit ground and when you're standing inside a retail store or doing maybe consumer surveys, you realize even though the consumer wants to eat this, he's actually not purchasing it, and the repeatability goes down. For us, then it was identifying what would a of course, quality is very important because that's something goes into your system. But anything 20 to 25% when at a store is muscle memory purchase. But anything above 30-35% and above is a consideration, right? So when you're at that 35% mark, the consumer actually thinks before making that purchase. But at an absolute value of 5, 10, 15 rupees, it's very impulsive and the repeatability kicks in and it's very high.
Sure. I think Mr. Prasad also wants to add something to this. Can you please pass on the mic?
Yeah, because I think we are in a similar industry, but I actually operate at the opposite spectrum where we're nothing healthy in our sort of range. Our snacks are fried in regular oil, and we don't necessarily talk about this aspect because our data and our insights and our understanding of the customers is essentially coming from the larger market. We actually stopped looking at a lot of the D2C data because we realized that that audience was a small percentage of the real audience out there. And if we were to derive insights from this, we would be perhaps building a product and a brand for a very, very small market. And therefore, we've actually tailored a lot of this to our understanding of the consumer behavior. Like he rightly said, I think on the ground, the customer is actually looking at the price point and whether it's just appealing to him at that moment. And we're also in a category where there is zero loyalty, right? Today they'll pick up our brand, tomorrow they'll just pick something else because it was on an offer or something like that. So I guess studying this data also, sometimes it just sort of comes in the way of some of the decisions that we might want to make. So we've actually tailored it more to what the market has told us, rather than necessarily go D2C data first and then sort of adapt it elsewhere. We've actually changed our pricing and all of that on the website to what we're doing offline and sort of taking the reverse approach rather than doing it D2C to offline.
Sure. So while Amar could not join us from Virgio, but we have Sir here. I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name. Uh, so Yash will actually be talking on behalf of Amar, but we've talked in this panel so far about consumer data analytics, and we've talked about how customers' data needs to be looked at. But if I was to understand that, how does this data actually help you in back of the house for your inventory management, for forecasting, what kind of production cycles you need to have or procurement cycles you need to have. So how do you use data for that at Virtue?
Absolutely. So when we look at the data, there is a specific goal or purpose any kind of data collection exercise should solve. We hear a lot about what kind of impact the big data has on consumer behaviors and how you can personalize your offering, etc. But there is other side of the world which is around how do you plan your supplies, how do you plan your brand strategy. So at Virgio, data is central to our strategy from day zero. May it be from defining what styles, what trends to spotting right trends, investing in right trends, and the data is multifold. It could be a first party data, third party data. There's a lot, particularly when you're a fashion brand, you need to be aware of what rest of the world is operating on. So we look at working with the ecosystem, identifying, crawling the data across the brand, what's really working, identifying the trends, identifying what are the right price points to go live with our product lines. So that is one part. Second part is around what is the on-brand data that you can collect real time and accordingly modify your supply chain capabilities, accordingly stock up your inventory. One of the biggest problem that every fashion brand has is unsold inventory. There is no science to it, how much to make for a particular style or a particular collection. The way we look at it is a 360-degree approach towards data on this. It's a combination of what the rest of the brands or rest of the world is offering versus the real-time signal consumption on our own platform, which styles are selling fast, capturing those signals early on, putting them into our supply lines, and creating the inventory accordingly.
Sure. I'm going to come to you, Meher. So, I understand that while data is something that is of great importance, but how are you, particularly through AI, helping a lot of brands to manage their data and largely be able to manage their, existing customers, forecast their future customers, and also at the same time be able to give them solutions which will make them less heavy on the resources in terms of human resources that they employ?
Very well. I mean, very valid question. I mean, AI is here to, I wouldn't say replace the resources, but build efficiency within the outcome that the resources gives you, right? And we at Hector, we have built generative AI. Now, generative AI is a way where the user defines what he wants. So there is a CMO who would want certain kind of data, and then there is a media buyer who would probably want a certain kind of data. More granular data for the media buyer, or more macro level of data that a CMO would want. So the power of generative AI would be that if you have put the data in a proper schema, in a proper structure, and if you bring all of those data, put them in the right structure, then it's the time that generative AI will actually not hallucinate. At the same time, you need to fine-tune those large language models to put it in place. So we trained it took us like 3,000 plus questions to train the bot to understand the natural language that a human would ask, possibly, what's my spend yesterday? So that's a very straightforward question, but the ChatGPT, the Hector GPT, doesn't understand spend. It understands cost or advertising spend. So training the data, training the model to understand that, once you finish that, then I think the answer and then the computation of the ChatGPT, computation of the generative AI is far, far richer and can give you the outcome that a resource will take 24 to 48 hours, but this one will give you in a matter of, in a minute. So that's something that we have built, and we love what we have put as an outcome, and it is something which is a journey. As I said, fine tuning, large language model tuning is a process, and it's not something that can start today and end tomorrow. So we are in that process of at this moment. Yeah.
Perfect. I think we all need it. Also, this is a general question to all of you. Now, I understand that as a digital first company, you all need to, be more in control of your data. But when we really want to do it right, what part of it is that you fix or do this analytics in-house? And what part of it is that you outsource, let's say to an agency or to a organization like, let's say, Hector? What part of it is that you say that, okay, let us, somebody who's an expert in it should do it and give us the results? So particularly, since all of you are brands, how do you sort of model it in-house? So, I mean, anybody can actually start and share their views on this.
All right, so I can say, because I'm on the other side of the world out here, and I personally believe that as a partner, the only thing we don't need is we don't need the direct personal information, right? So once we don't have the personal information, we have a user ID, which is basically hash data. There's nothing that the brand is going to lose. At the same time, obviously, there's to be a privacy policy in place. There's going to be an NDA in place. Once that is there, unfortunately, a brand cannot go deeper in the analytics, deeper into investment, into resources, into tech, to build that sort of rich analysis of what they really want as a result for their data, especially, young company, while they are, in the process of just building themselves, they don't want to get into building this skill set in-house. So that's the time that they trust another partner like us. And when we come in, we obviously have what sort of data do we need. So we don't really take their personal PIA data to our side, but we use those data we use cookies, we use internet ID, IP address, and stuff like that to bring the insights for the partners. I think that really works as a very good complementing, supplementing partnership relation, which is works hand in hand, because we've invested in that technology which they don't have to invest. Yeah, Sudeep.
I'll just add, simple answer, it depends.
It depends on
I'm
what.
with you.
Yeah, depends on where you are in your journey.
Yeah.
Actually, see, data is scary.
Yeah.
Generally, if you talk to a general person, the understanding on what all data can come in is not like very pervasive. It's like some people understand it, most people don't understand it, on how to get it. The whole plumbing behind getting the right data, right, which you guys have built. At WOW, like earlier we used to work with partners to help us with data, but then we realized that, why not build it in-house now? After a certain size, it allows you to have the kind of talent that helps you, and the investment to not just build the pipelines, but also keep updating it. Because data is not fixed in time. It keeps changing. The requirements keep changing. What you need keeps changing, right? So at WOW, we decided to move to our in-house teams. But like, it depends on where you are in your journey and how.
Which part you want to outsource?
Yeah, and how important the data is actually. The other thing is some companies like want to keep the data with themselves because like it's sensitive information. You don't want to be sharing it with anyone. And then, it's also exciting work for the teams. So for example, you have a data team, right? And if they're doing only analytics work, they won't be interested. Like they'll all leave after some point in time, right? If you have work that allows them to build models, build forecasting, build recommendations, then it becomes more interesting for them. So it's multitudes of these factors which actually, play.
For me, data actually started with a pen and paper. I just started scribbling down models. I just started putting variables, started understanding trend, then took that to Excel, started computing there, got 2 more team members because then we started building complex Excel models. Post which we said, okay, let's go micromanage further, right? And when we start micromanaging, you see, like what you correctly said, it's scary, right? It gives you sometimes a reality check as to a very fine line between what you think it is versus what it actually is, right? And that decision power can be transformative in terms of just changing the dynamics of the business. So for us, it was that journey, and then we got someone who's doing BABI in-house, building models. But now I think we're in that journey where we're actually contemplating if we should get it in-house and build this whole machinery, uh, or outsourcing it. But at the end of it, I think it's all about how curious you are in terms of what you'd like to extract from it, because it can even go down to maybe the plastic packaging that we use and the microns of that, and if there are any pinholes, and what would be the water vapor activity or the oxygen transmission rate, and it's just absurd, right? And perfecting it is like a very long journey, but I think I'm going to touch base with both you guys to
This
understand
was
more
actually
about
the
this.
perfect advertisement for him. As he said, so
Are
he
you
said,
sponsoring
yeah,
the
I'm
event?
on the other side. Perfect. No, so just to conclude here, I think data is also a lot about asking questions. If it's in-house, obviously if you have that team, because every day you come up with new things in your head, and data is about asking the right question and then getting that right answer through the data. So that obviously only comes through experience. And if it's outsourced, it's, you can't keep asking that questions, keep calling, ki, Meher, what is happening?
Depends.
So yeah, so I think it depends, like they said, yeah.
Sure. So whenever I speak to brands, they always say, Ritu, you get me any technology which will be our profit center in 2 years and not a cost center. We can take it as a cost right now. We can invest in it for 2 years, 3 years, but after that it has to eventually turn into it has to sort of um, pay back to us. So now, when you look at technology like that, it's a very different sort of proposition we're bringing to the table. So, so which technologies within the D2C space, and particularly from a data point of view, has been able to give you that kind of outcome?
Okay. I think we have seen the advent of D2C stack overall. Uh, Over the course of last 4 to 5 years, a lot of tech capability has been commoditized. And as a fast moving D2C brand, it's advisable that you should leverage as much as possible to start with, unless you hit the scale problem sooner. But in my understanding so far, I think for your PMF journey at least, there are enough tools right from Shopify's and Increps of the world to all the tools around data analytics, etc. You should use out of the box solutions. And most of the data platforms support anonymized way of transferring data and analyzing the data. So there's essentially no risk of losing the PII data at all. So I would, we have at Virgio identified what are the differentiator for as Virgio as a brand, and tried to put 80% of our energy on that, building those technology pieces or data pieces ourselves. But there is a plethora of functionality which is already solved by great set of people, and we are leveraging as it is.
Sure. Any other thoughts on this?
So,
Even how did he give technology himself?
yeah, let Mon give.
Yes, I mean, for us, I think the go-to places for all of this has been, actually we speak to the promoters first. We then speak to the store owner, and then we speak last to the customer, because we like to get a sense of what the trade is thinking before the customer has his opinion, because this data has been more useful for us than any tool or Excel sheet has ever given us. Simply because, I mean, we're a speck in this entire market, right? And we're trying to build something. If we don't understand the pulse of the customer on the ground, I don't know if any of the tools will ever help us where we are in the stage of our journey as well.
Now, particularly, if a brand is going omni-channel, which at every point, at some point of time, every brand does, right? So now, I think that the whole data complexity becomes much bigger. Now you have a customer which is in the physical space, in the digital space, looking here, buying there, or reverse. So now, I think the whole, the engineering of data is going to be even more complex or more diversified. So therefore, have you at some point of time made some transgression in terms of seeing that how you're going to use the data, particularly when you went omni-channel?
No, so like he just said very rightly that the biggest difference in omni-channel and the online data we get is through your offline store, you actually know what the customer wants. With touch, feel, taste, everything. Whereas in online, yes, there is a lot of data, but it's still not the same. When someone is actually there at the store and you're talking face to face, there is a big difference understanding what they mean rather than just going through data. I think the future is omni-channel for a lot of D2C brands. A lot of brands have already started going that route because, especially after COVID, we thought D2C brands, boss, we've hit the jackpot. Online is the space. This is where we are going to be. All the customers are coming online. Offline is passé. But soon, things have changed very rapidly. People are going to the malls again. And for brands like us to survive, to actually build a brand, we have to go omni-channel. And also that helps the customer a lot from a brand perspective, is because ease of communicating with the customer. You can give them that transparency, that I'm not getting that word, but basically it helps the customer and a brand much more if you're omni-channel.
So yeah, omni-channel, obviously you have to be where the customer wants you, and the insights should come from the customer, wherever the customer is purchasing from. To the question that you are asking, like with more and more channels, data becomes complex. Yes, it does. In fact, that is one of the biggest problems that we face today, that how do we consolidate the data? Because every channel sends data at different frequency, different granularity. How do you kind of make it all together? But it's happening. It's happening, right? Like, you'll not get customer information, sure, but there are ways to get it. There are ways. So, for example, there are tools today available where you would have seen those QR codes coming on packs. When you scan those QR, you buy from wherever, but your brand pack contains that QR code. And when you're scanning that QR code, it's promising you a reward. 50 rupees, 100 rupees, one fridge, one TV, something, essentially. And in return, it's collecting information from you. Right? So you can, if you run it at scale, you can actually make out that, who's the customer, where's the customer buying from in that split, how did they discover you in that split. So that's one way of getting data. On the other hand, there is non-customer data like product information, right? Like one huge problem that, you were mentioning is demand forecasting in fast fashion. Demand forecasting is a huge problem in all industries. You have minimum order quantities, you do not know how much to order, either it's too small or it's too much, right? And what do you do of the remaining inventory, right? So data gives you that, you are getting sales data from all channels, you know what's the velocity, and then that helps you. And like, for example, we have a 500, 600 product catalog, right? So planning for it month on month is not easy unless there's a central store, central repository, which collects data from all places and tells me that, hey, what's my sell-through rate? And then account for factors like seasonality. Now, October, mein Flipkart is running a big sale, for example. Then how do you account for that what will be the spike this time? So data helps you trend that, right? So some data is coming into the fray, into the common areas, but there's still a lot that needs to be done on that journey. So we are still like early on.
Work in progress. Great. Happy to take some questions from the audience. Yeah, please, sir. Go on. Mike?
So, good afternoon, everyone. I am Chirag Doshi, co-founder and CEO of Dreams Hub, an online store dealing in home care and personal care products. Talking about data, as of now, we are doing almost 1 lakh shipments per month. So, my question is with Sudeep, sir.
Sudeep, please. Sir just seems like a weird man. And why don't you sit?
Yes, right. So how do you manage fake NDR done by courier? Because as the orders are increasing, we are facing a big problem in NDR, fake NDR which are done by courier. Is there any team of yours to deal with it? any logistic services that provides this solution to reduce our RTO percentage?
Yeah, that's a huge challenge, honestly. Like the only solution that I know of is talking to your partners, the courier services, and then ensuring that, and also talking to the customers, by the way, to get this information. How do you get that information, right? Customers will tell you that courier INE. Courier has marked it as customer not available, but you talk to the customer says no one approached me, right? So it's a problem. It's a problem. Now, how do you solve it? No easy solution. You have to keep talking to courier partners and work with courier partners that help with a lesser percentage of that. That feedback loop has to come from customers, right? The other issue that we face specifically on courier is fraud. Fraud as in customer data, obviously it's on the box. So somewhere it'll get leaked. Then customer will get a call saying, sir, we are speaking from Wow Skin Science. You have placed an order and you are eligible for a lucky draw. Right? So pay us 2,000 rupees and you can win a TV, for example. Huge problem, right? And we see these cases spike on New Year. We see these cases spike on Diwali, for example. And customers pay. Like after so much education, like we try communicating after every order that please do not pay any money. Do not, like anyone who's calling you for money is a. We are not doing lucky draw. Yeah, we're not doing all of that. But like, so that's another big problem that you might be already facing. Yes. I think the trick is to like identify the right courier partners, honestly. Like
actually, we have our own calling in-house call center. Specifically, 6 callers are working only on NDR part, but still we are facing a big issue. That's why I was
work with multiple partners, man. Work with multiple partners. Look at the partner who's working the best for you, because it's like logistics is a pretty deep industry, so to speak, right? So work with multiple partners. The other suggestion that I would have is see if you can increase your prepaid percentages by offering a simple way, which almost everyone in D2C does today, is a 5% prepaid discount on top, right? Which just gives an incentive for people to say, yaar, COD nahi lete, prepaid le lete hain. So that reduces your RTO rate, so to speak. So, some of those things are things that you can probably implement.
Thank you so much.
I can add to this.
Yes, please.
How we are looking at it. So what we have done is, especially logistics, when you're using third-party logistic, all your communication to the consumer is directly happening from logistics, out for delivery or who is the assigned delivery personnel, etc. What we have done is we have built our own layer which orchestrates all logistic events. And we have established a WhatsApp channel with consumer at the time of order placement itself, because we have the consumer's mobile number. And if you're operating in India, you can rest assured that WhatsApp would be, can be a trusted channel. Every event in the fulfillment journey, especially cancellation, etc., we are passing that through our layer. So if at all there is, fraudulent behavior by the carrier, or let's say because of a specific person, all of those gets captured there itself, where consumer comes out, whether I did not cancel it or did I cancel it. So investing in building that layer, in fact, in the initial part of journey, we had not built that layer. So consumer experience in terms of fulfillment and logistic layer, it was all broken, because you were getting SMS from delivery. We were using Shiprocket and delivery as one of the major partner. So sometime the communication will go from delivery, sometime will go from Shiprocket. It will not even call out our brand, as a prominent in the messaging. So then we realized the experience is completely broken. So we invested into building this layer, and every leg of the fulfillment of the order, the communication goes directly from our channel.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, hello, Rohit this side. I have a question for Sudeep. Like you just said that in how you have 500 SKUs, any number of SKUs, particularly in the skincare industry, keep on growing. Every time some new ingredients come, then they increase another 20, 30 SKUs of yours. So as you look into the growth of WOW, what do you think will trigger the next leg of growth for the skincare industry? The product or the category? In what sense will the next phase of growth come?
It's a loaded question. See, beauty as an industry is massive. Like uh, D2C as a segment in beauty is like barely scratching the surface. It's like really tiny, and the need spaces are also a lot. Like I'm a typical Indian boy who didn't know anything about beauty. I was like, ek sabun upar se niche done, and then when I, when I went to beauty, I realized, dude, there's a shampoo, there's a conditioner, there's a pre-wash serum, there's a post-wash serum, there's a night serum, there's a day serum, there's a day cream, night cream, sunscreen for your skin types. It's not ending, right? So, beauty as an industry is very wide. There are need states and there are brands built on single product. I'll give you examples, right? Like, there's an almond oil that comes. Which brand is that? Bajaj, right? One brand, Himalaya face wash. So there are brands built on single products. There are brands which play a plethora of products, and the categories coming in. You can play in hair care. You can play only in serums. You can play like only shampoos. You can play only repair, for example. You can play essential oils, and these categories keep evolving, right? Wow has been an innovator in this. Like we came, the first thing that we launched and which got us our initial success was apple cider vinegar. Like the founders saw that ACV as an ingredient is very, very big in the US. So they came to India, they launched ACV drink and ACV skincare and ACV hair care. Everything just flew, right? So ingredients keep evolving. Then onion came in. Today, for hair care, if you actually are into the industry, you'll see rosemary is just flying off the shelf. Shameless product plug, our rosemary plus biotin range is exceptional. Please do try. No, but ingredients keep evolving, right? So as a brand, you'll have to see that whether you want to continue the same categories and add more ingredients to it, or you can have different categories. Like actives in India, no one knew 5 years back. Minimalist came and kind of just became such a big brand, right? There was a brand called Ordinary. Minimalist came in, they copied it exactly. And their products are good, by the way, and they made such a big brand. And then there are more brands from the house of Honasa. We have launched a brand called Nature Derma. Now, actives as a category is becoming big. So these categories will keep evolving as humans get evolving. Plus, India as a country is at an interesting demographic dynamic, right? India is growing. We are all earning more money. We are all getting more conscious on how we look, how we feel. How many men use face wash today, if I may have a show of hands here? See, I'm happy there are 8-10 hands. Like 5 years back, this would be 0, this number. Right? So this is actually evolving and you can play wherever. So the growth is there to come. Depends on where you want to capture it from.
Last question, please. A gentleman had it there. He raised it first.
Hey folks, my name is Hemant and I'm representing Asymmetric. A question from the perspective, circling back to the data point again. A question in terms of conversion that I have. So whenever we talk about marketing campaigns, top of the funnel is always sorted out, right? I mean, if top of the funnel is not sorted out, then it's a big problem. But how we can utilize data in terms of the gap between middle of the funnel and bottom of the funnel, because that's the point where a customer looks for goes with either with an alternative or he's like done for the day. Then he'll circle back. So what will be an ideal point to keep that engagement going with implementing big data towards it, that we keep the customer engaged and convert that?
Yeah. So what I have seen in the experience of performance marketing is that putting all of these buckets into a separate bucket, putting all of these entire 3 funnels from your awareness to consideration and the bottom of the funnel in a separate bucket, and also understand what's your conversion window between each one of them. And once you understand what is your ideal conversion window between all of them, so and awareness to consideration, it probably takes 30 days. But from the consideration to the conversion, it takes, say, 7, or in some cases 14, or in some cases where the average order value is higher, it may even go 30. If you able to understand that attribution window, that conversion window, and if you increase your number of touch points during that time, your ability to get a higher conversion rate increases. And this is one way of doing this. The other way of doing this is identify that what communication works in each of the funnel, because it's not the same communication that is going to work on each of the funnels. So understanding that what angle, what communication works in each of the funnel, doing your multiple A/B testing in that journey, and and making sure that you're not showing multiple same creative to the person throughout the funnel is going to help you get that better engagement. You will have more touch point, and again, the third point would be omni-channel. So, I mean, if you're advertising on Facebook, just make sure that you're not just on Facebook, but you are using other platforms. Like me and Sudeep were just talking that 80% of the traffic which comes on the D2C website is largely coming from Google and Facebook. So are we bringing in traffic? Are we targeting our customers beyond Google and Facebook? Because that's not the only digital space that your customers are on right now. So that's my take on this.
Thanks, Maher.
So the way I look at it is just starting to the 3 stages of awareness, consideration, and finally conversion. The way I see it, it's a function of 3, 3 responsibilities within the organization. Awareness is about targeting and reaching out to right set of consumers, which is solved for the top of the funnel problem. The middle of the funnel is all about the products that you are offering. It has to make sense to the top of the funnel. So that's more about the product team or a design team who is building it. And the third part, which is conversion, is more of a tech and product responsibility, making sure that once there is a consideration, there's no friction in the conversion part.
Just adding one more point, which you touched upon, the point number 2 that you touched upon. Like, while we keep talking about data, I think it's extremely important to understand the consumer, and you also mentioned about it, right? And what kind of communication will stick with the consumer. Like, a lot of times we focus, because we are assuming we are all logical people and data is visible, we focus on that a lot. We don't focus on the intangible of how my creative is, what is it calling, is it actually tugging at the heartstrings of the consumer? Because once the demand is created in your head, then you'll figure out a way of buying the thing. It usually works like that. It's simple. As humans, we are like really simple, but we make it complex. So the job is, how do we create that demand? And that's extremely important, that we should not miss in this chase of data. Let's just send it.
We run a subscription model for us, understanding conversion at various levels, right? Either through sampling / ads, then going into a one-time order, and then eventually turning into a subscription. And how do you keep this guy engaged through this journey, through various omni-channel communication? And like you correctly said, right, the intangibility of it in terms of even the voice that is speaking to the consumer, to the look and feel of the creative, to just the way your call center would even pick up the phone and say hello. And that's in that split second, a decision is made, right? So I've done a small framework. I'm happy to share that with you in terms of behavioral science backed by just very simple metrics as to how many WhatsApps till you actually say your lead is dead, right? Or how many emailers, or when is he irritated, when is he not, what is the time, what is not, right? To reach out to him, putting that in your marketing funnels, and then shooting various types of communication. So I'm happy to share that little diagram with you. Yeah. Awesome.